This is some of the leftover paella my mom made as part of the celebrations for the new year. Mom made this homemade paella and did a pretty good job on it. I originally had some along with my mom and my sister roughly around 8:30 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. And I had it with a glass of whole milk, just like this one. I had a total of 2 helpings of the paella at this time. I think me and my sister requested that my mom make paella. As we originally had some several times at a tapas restaurant in Philadelphia. What I've done most recently after having that paella was to work on the Triangle Ball polystyrene drawing project. Drawing a few black triangles. After touching up one of the recently drawn red triangles. From a previous day. I did this using first a red ultrafine Sharpie marker, since I first touched that red triangle up, and then a black ultrafine Sharpie marker to draw 2 new black triangles for the pattern I'm doing for the Triangle Ball polystyrene drawing project. And around that time I checked on the football game between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. Since my dad's a fan of the Minnesota Vikings and the Vikings pretty much needed to win this game in order to have a solid chance of making the playoffs. I didn't really think to check on the game until about 9 p.m. from my recollection, by which time the first quarter was nearly over and the Green Bay Packers had gone into the lead with 10 points. Even when the Packers' lead was by 20 points at times, they still held on to hope until the game was over that the Vikings would make a comeback. But the Vikings ended up losing the game 33-10. I didn't actually watch the game, just followed the live updates that my phone search engine, Google provided me. As I was also working on the triangle ball, and going through my current rotation of games on Congregate, primarily Underworld Idol, One Among Zombies, and Oceania. I would once every few minutes or so or sometimes at times at least once a minute on average, check on how the Vikings-Packers game was progressing. And as it turned out, it started bad, and then there was hope, but then it ended bad. And it was pretty much hopeless by 5 minutes into the fourth, with 5 minutes left. By the time there were 5 minutes left on the fourth quarter, but I still held on to hope because there was no game involving the San Francisco 49ers, and I knew that my dad wanted the Minnesota Vikings to make the playoffs. They still have a chance, but I think it's in the single digits at this point. And that's assuming they win their last regular season game. I worked at Wegmans today from 10 in the morning to 3:30 p.m. I took my 15-minute break, my one and only 15-minute break, at 3 p.m. I could have had the 3-mile cheddar cheese sticks and the small Greek salad and the 2% milk bottle from the Brine Dairy brand that my mom packed as my lunch. But because it included a salad, and if I was having it then, I would walk to the cafe part of the supermarket, leaving me with pretty much 10 minutes to eat. And I didn't think it would really be enough time. So I decided to have that lunch after my mom had driven me back to her place after picking me up from work. I had that lunch around 3:45 p.m. Around 9 in the morning, before my mom drove me to work, the Wegmans I work at, I had some of the leftover chicken noodle soup. I had that with what was left of our old quart of eggnog. Of which we got that for Christmas Day dinner. And around the time I had the chicken noodle soup and the eggnog, my mom made me a cup of plain coffee that she put into another one of her thermoses, despite the old one having been brought back to her place. And I had that thermos of plain coffee roughly from about 9:15 in the morning, right before Mom drove me to the Wegmans I work at, to about 11 in the morning, about an hour into my shift at Wegmans. For my 15-minute break during my shift at Wegmans, I first went to the bathroom and then sat in the break room until I got the alarm notification on my phone that my break was over. I also recall within the first hour of today having some of the Reese's milk chocolate pumpkins and some of the Reese's white chocolate ghosts, having some of those. I recall frequently restocking the banana section of the produce department, to the point of it being the most frequent thing I restocked during my shift today. I recall reloading the banana runner twice today. And for that particular banana runner, I did 3 stacks for banana boxes. Except for the second time, as I think the second time there was still a partial organic box full of organic bananas. That I think for the first time I reloaded the banana runner, I put on first on the banana runner, and then the rest of the banana boxes were regular. That's according to my recollection. And my shift today was just like these last several have been, for the most part. Restocking merchandise by bringing it from the produce holding area to the produce department. Offering assistance to some of the passing customers, but generally when customers require assistance, they'll get my attention, not the other way around. And in those cases, I do my best to help them. More often than not, whenever I see one of my coworkers out where I am, asking them to help me help the customer that requested assistance from me.